Volkswagen recently updated the Polo and gave it a much more improved diesel engine as well. But what was missing were the more powerful GT versions. Well, they're back now in this updated avatar, and I'm here to find out just how much justice they do to that GT badge. Now, all the styling elements that the Polo facelift received have carried over to these range-topping GT versions. So, there's a restyled front bumper with a chrome strip running across the air dam and the grille. Rear changes are more subtle, with new tail lamps and a slightly redesigned bumper. What sets the GT versions apart are the black wing mirrors and the black roof spoiler. And of course, the smattering of GT badges all around. Interestingly, VW has stuck with the pre-facelift GT's sportier looking 10-spoke alloys. Things are a little better differentiated on the inside. Both the petrol and the diesel GTs get an all-black dashboard instead of the two-tone theme. The center console uses a glossy black trim instead of silver, and the seats get two-tone fabrics instead of the all-beige treatment. You also get brushed aluminium pedals and GT embossed door sills. But apart from this, it's identical to the standard Highline spec Polo. This means you get a fair bit of equipment. An audio setup that supports Bluetooth, aux and USB inputs, climate control and parking sensors. As before, the cabin quality impresses with excellent fit and finish. When I heard Volkswagen had set up a handling circuit for this test, the enthusiast in me was hoping that VW had tinkered with the GT suspension to make it more worthy of their badge. And the car I sampled first was the turbo petrol, the GT TSI. The GT TSI always had a punchy motor, but when it came to handling, it felt a bit soft and understeery. So has Volkswagen changed that? Well, no. As before, the comfort-oriented suspension setup means the GT TSI will quickly slip to understeer when pushed around corners. Mechanically, there are no changes to the engine either. The 1.2-litre 103 bhp direct injection turbo engine still packs a great punch in its mid-range, and the 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox is snappy to use. We liked the combo then, and we like it still. Now, while the petrol GT TSI carries over the same familiar engine as the older car, what I'm really interested in is this one. It's the diesel. Now, unlike before, which was the Vento's 1.6-litre engine, this one's the newer Polo's 1.5-litre engine, but despite its 100cc disadvantage, it makes pretty much the same power as before. We have already seen this 1.5-litre engine in a milder 89 bhp state of tune on the standard Polo. However, the higher 103 bhp version will be used on the Volkswagen Vento, the Skoda Rapid, and you've guessed it, on this GT TDI. The engineers at VW tinkered with the ECU to allow this 1.5 TDI unit to match the power and torque outputs of the old 1.6-litre motor. Usable power comes in from as low as 1600 RPM, and once the turbo spools up near 1900 RPM, the engine pulls nicely to a good 4500 revs, after which it starts losing speed. However, if you still press on, it will spin to a very un-diesel-like 5500 RPM. What's impressive is that you get a nice shove in the mid-range and power doesn't trail off till a good 4500 RPM. And from there on, you still have another 1000 RPMs before the rev limiter kicks in. That's impressive. And while it's considerably quicker than the regular Polo, it is a second slower to the 100 kph mark than the outgoing GT TDI. The GT TDI is offered only with a 5-speed manual gearbox, which is a treat to use. Although, the clutch will feel a bit heavy, especially when you are stuck in stop-start traffic for a few hours. As with the earlier GT TDI, this version is a bit more engaging to steer than the TSI. Now I'm driving around the twisty roads at Ambi Valley, and while power isn't really a problem, I really wish Volkswagen had tuned the suspension for a slightly sportier setup and given it maybe stiffer springs to control some of this body roll I'm feeling here. So unsurprisingly, the GT TDI's focus is more on everyday practicality and smothering potholes in the city rather than improving apex speeds on a track. But at higher speeds, it does feel more planted than the GT TSI. After spending a day with the Polo GTs, there's no doubt that they're more fun to drive than their lesser siblings. The Polo GT TSI, with its small yet powerful engine, quick shifting 7-speed gearbox, has always had a fan following since its launch. At Rs 7.99 lakh, it costs the same as the outgoing model, but now looks sharper and has a bit more equipment too, making it better value. On the other hand, this Polo GT TDI packs more punch into what was already a fairly powerful engine. Like before, it's priced exactly the same as the Polo GT TSI, which means it's about Rs 60,000 more than the standard top spec Polo. Is it worth it? That depends solely on where you place performance on your list of priorities.